Welcome to Creating High Performance Teams, LSAL 5283, as taught by Dr. Ruby Daniels. This is KCL Consulting's final presentation, Draft 1, as presented by Autin. Thank you for those introductions, Casey. As my partner mentioned, my colleagues and I will present you with a new way of thinking at your organization. To that end, KCL Consulting will help you to create an environment where everyone is free and even encouraged to participate and lend their unique skills and knowledge to respond to challenges and achieve a clear set of shared goals. Now, I understand this may sound simple and even cliche. However, what most organizations get wrong is how they structure their environment to respond to those challenges. Most organizations do not get the very best from their employees because they misunderstand what a team is. KCL Consulting coaches leaders to design teams strategically for a specific and compelling purpose, then to disband those teams when they resolve the issue. Teams are not static groups with a mix of members with shared responsibilities. And unlike teams, groups rarely reflect and thus learn from their extraordinary or even their routine challenges. As a result, groups tend to treat every barrier as a new experience. KCL Consulting is here today to help your organization's executive leadership team think of teaming as a dynamic activity. We will help you to see and then later to frame to your entire organization what it means to truly team and learn and integrate from individuals with diverse skill sets and multiple perspectives and unique personalities on the fly. To align your organizational structure properly so that you can address any challenge quickly and adequately, you must understand the elemental characteristics of the different types of teams and groups. First, your organization likely already has experience collaborating with stakeholders in various regions throughout the world. Therefore, you understand a primary characteristic of virtual teams. And because virtual teams are often geographically dispersed, the members themselves are likely to be as diverse in their organizational and ethnic cultures as they are in their skill sets. The benefit here, of course, is that members of multicultural teams provide more valuable and unique perspectives than homogeneous groups and their members do. Finally, virtual teams rely on technology to operate. Virtual teams collaborate and exchange information through real-time video and audio hardware and software. Notice I mentioned collaborating in real time. Virtual teaming is about the active collaboration and exchange of ideas to resolve problems, not sending emails and text. To avoid the pitfalls virtual teams encounters, which my colleague Lauren Waldo will discuss later in greater detail, it is always best for teams to collaborate in a face-to-face environment. Face-to-face teams operate just as the name implies. Members meet in person and collaborate in a central location. As a result, teams that meet in person are typically from the same organization or division and often share some of the same organizational values as those around them. And because members are typically from the same location, they often share the same deadlines, rely on the same information, or experience the same limited resources as those around them as well. This means face-to-face teams are at a greater risk for interpersonal conflict. It also means that your organization's leadership must understand how to manage conflict effectively. To get a better understanding of what teams are, it is also helpful to understand what a team is not. As I mentioned earlier, a team is not a static group of people that share the same set of goals. While it is absolutely necessary for your organization to use groups to tackle routine tasks, teams leverage the skills of their members to address complex issues and do so in a way that grows the overall organization by learning from what worked and what did not work along the way. This is a defining characteristic of a team versus a group. While groups typically have their procedures and desk manuals, they rarely reflect on successes or failures to create a better way of doing things in the future. One of our goals at KCL Consulting is to help you create a teaming environment where individuals continuously grow their skill sets to become more valuable team members. And now that you have a better understanding of teaming and what teams and groups do, you can begin to strategically deploy the right people with the right skills and experiences to take on your organization's most pressing challenges. Now, I want to turn it over to my colleague, Lauren Waldo, who will go into more detail about the specific challenges that virtual teams must overcome. Thank you, Casey. So, as my colleague just pointed out to you, there are a number of challenges teams who meet in person must overcome. In response, I would like to cover some of the ways that your organization can meet those challenges by engaging in some of the best practices that successful face-to-face teams employ. First, the team must agree to base everything they do on facts. Your organization must work with more data about your business and its competitors, not try to simplify things and work with less. Teams can mitigate irrational and ignorant decision-making and use conflict and debate to their advantage when everyone is speaking the same language and truth. Second, leaders must design teams strategically. They must enlist the right people with the right skills for the job at hand. Teams must be able to shift from one situation to another while maintaining high levels of communication and coordination. Not everyone has the skills and perspectives to contribute this way, so it is important leaders do not carelessly design their teams. Next, teams overcome their barriers when they have a shared set of clearly defined objectives. Nothing rallies a team more than a leader who creates an environment where everyone's best interests are served by collaborating on achieving the optimal solution when everyone is on the same page. Now, incidentally, having a set of clearly defined objectives may be as simple as having a well thought out meeting agenda and sticking to it. Know your audience and you know your employees, and while it may seem formal to have an agenda, going off topic can sometimes be seen as a sign of disrespect for other people's time in our busy environment. Stick to the issues and your team will be more efficient and more productive. Next, leaders of successful face-to-face teams avoid speaking out at the start of projects or initiatives to offer their opinion or assert their expertise. When a leader lays down the proverbial gauntlet or sets early, high, or even just unreasonable expectations, team members become reluctant to offer new ideas because the leader has immediately asserted his or her authority and unduly influenced the creative process. Finally, Casey discussed why face-to-face teams are at a greater risk for interpersonal conflict, but being more familiar with one another also means there are more opportunities to interject humor into the process. Take the time to celebrate holidays, celebrate important employee milestones, and even harmless practical joking. While these events may sometimes seem contrived, they are proven to build camaraderie, trust, listening, and creativity. Now, KCL Consulting will go beyond presenting these best practices of virtual and face-to-face teams, as Casey Shelton has the value-added portion of our proposal and will illustrate some specific tips and tricks to maximize team performance and leverage the benefits of a teaming environment. So, in conclusion, I would like to thank each of you for your time and attention. I hope we have done a good job presenting what the KCL Consulting philosophy is, what types of teams exist, and what they do and how they operate in contrast to how groups work. And after hearing Lauren's presentation, I hope you now have a better understanding of what the barriers exist for virtual teams and how to overcome them. Then, after hearing Casey's presentation, I hope you now have a better appreciation for the barriers that exist for face-to-face teams, and that I provided you with the best ways to overcome those barriers. Finally, I hope you can take some of Casey's tips and tricks for teams to be a more responsive and competitive environment in the future. Most importantly, however, now that you have heard from KCL Consulting, we want to hear from you. Do you have any questions for us?